Hello, welcome to another episode of Inside the Huddle. Today is Sunday, July 28th. This is episode 22 of the Inside the Huddle podcast. Make sure to please like and subscribe. Appreciate all of your support. As always, football is back. There is a game this week. Training camp is in full swing. For a good chunk of the teams, pads either come on today or tomorrow. I think the Giants, I was seeing this morning a couple tweets. I think their first padded practice was today. The Jets start pads tomorrow. So things are starting to really get real here in training camp. The first kind of 3-4 days, no pads, a little lower intensity. Now the intensity will rise a little bit, get a little bit more takeaways from these practices with the pads on. Obviously, more live action. So a lot to look forward to. DiMari, we've got a lot to discuss. Some huge contracts given out this week. We will break all those down. How's it going, man?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty good. I was actually quite surprised by some of the contracts that we've seen. I thought I maybe misread the number. Maybe Twitter was kind of lagging on me or something. Maybe need to go to the doctor, get a prescription.
Yeah.
But no, some of these contracts were crazy, but we kind of expected it. A few guys that was looking, to get extended finally did get extended. Now other guys are kind of waiting around just to get theirs, but like I said, a lot to get into. Training camp is starting to rev up with the intensity, rev up with the pads. It feels like to me a few more sleeps. It's Thursday. We're watching football again. So life is good right now.
Yeah, it's the first Thursday with football back on, and it'll be football from I think last week. I know we talked about it all fair. I forget the exact number, but it was like last week is the last Thursday without football until probably January, until the end of the regular season, pretty much. So football is here. Football is pretty much back. July is coming to a close. August, of course, is all preseason. So a lot to look forward to, but we've got to get into the big quarterback extensions that we saw this week. It started with Tua, and then it went to Jordan Love. We'll get to Tua here in a little bit. We're going to go kind of out of order than what they actually happened because Jordan Love's completely broke the bank in terms of his contract. It is a massive 4-year, $220 million deal. To break down some of the numbers, $55 million per year, $155 million guaranteed, and $75 million just to sign the contract and signing bonus. So a massive contract for the 25-year-old quarterback who is entering his technically fifth season in the NFL because he was selected in 2020, didn't play at all in 2020, played 6 games in 2021, played 4 games in 2022, and then all 17 last year in 2023 as a starter for the first time. And had a big year, finished 7th in yards, 2nd in touchdowns, 9th in QBR. So was sitting out they were doing a sit-in or whatever. He was at practice, but he wasn't actually practicing. Now he gets his contract. Massive, massive deal. What was your first reaction to this before we break down kind of what this means, agree, disagree with the deal and all that good stuff?
I was in shock. I mean, I didn't see it up until you sent it to me on Twitter and it was like, Love just got the bag. So
Yeah.
I'm thinking, probably 52, 53 mil. The highest paid quarterback is just absolute crazy. I mean, trying to give the respect and the benefit of the doubt. He did have an outstanding year, especially with the talent that he has in Green Bay, receiver wise. Like, it's not a lot of big names, but this is someone who's only been a starter for one complete year, and you just go throw the bag at him like this. It's kind of crazy, but at least what I can say from his deal, and then when we do get into Tua's deal, the playoff win and Super Bowl crowd, it's time to just hush it, keep the mouths closed. Because I mean, the guys won 2 playoff games, 1 playoff game. I don't know if you even count Dallas. So if we're being honest, so it's just you can't continue with if he hasn't had this much playoff success and this many Super Bowls and this and that, he doesn't deserve to get paid. That's basically what I'm trying to say from it. But I guess congrats to him. Hopefully he proves he's worth the money that he just signed.
Yeah, no, I agree with you from that standpoint of for all the reasons that people, I guess, from a Dak Prescott standpoint, want to criticize him, why he shouldn't get paid or why he isn't getting paid, all that stuff for the playoffs and the Super Bowls not being there. The same case could be made, honestly, for Tua. And even Jordan Love. I mean, Jordan Love, a little bit different just because it's one season. You had the playoff win, but it was one starting year. But for Tua, which we'll get to here soon, even more of a case because it's not even the playoffs with him. It's more so even the end of the regular season, he starts to fall off going into the postseason. So that's a serious problem. We've seen them choke 2 huge division leads away in back-to-back years. We'll get to that here soon. But yeah, just throwing up here now, highest paid quarterbacks in the NFL. And we'll get through a couple of these graphics in the NFL on a per year basis. So you look at that list, Love is tied top in terms of 55 million per season. That's his per year. He's tied with Trevor Lawrence and Joe Burrow. Tua then behind those guys. Then it's Goff, Herbert, Jackson, Hurts. And then they kind of just went into some more of the stuff. Highest paid quarterback in NFL history. He also gets a record $75 million signing bonus, all that stuff. And I also want to throw this up on the screen too. 2020 NFL draft has now produced $1.25 billion in contract extensions, which is crazy. Burrow 5 years, 275. Tua 4 years, 212. Herbert 5 years, 262. Love 4 years, 220. Hurts 5 years, 255. And then I know you wanted to throw this up as well. This was from Rich Eisen, which makes a great point. And this kind of really just sets the point that we'll make a lot here in the episode based off of playoffs. The whole playoff and Super Bowl debate now is kind of out the window because you look at these numbers, right? Top 8 paid quarterbacks annually, 16 and 17 in the playoffs, 3 Super Bowls, 0 combined Super Bowl wins, paying and hoping. And that last point I want to get to is I guess you disagree with this contract, right? The Jordan Love contract.
100%. 100%.
See, I don't know how to word this. I don't hate it. I understand them extending him. Making him the highest paid is a stretch, but the NFL, the way we're entering this, it's a new age in terms of contracts where teams are paying guys now for what they're going to be, not really what they've been. You see that even with Jalen Hurts last year. He had one good year. They got to the Super Bowl, lost the Super Bowl, had one great season. They gave him that massive contract for what they hope he is going to be. You now see it with Jordan Love. 1 year, right? The previous 3 years of his NFL career, he was sitting behind Aaron Rodgers, one of which he didn't even see the field in his rookie season. 1 year they're paying for hopefully what he's been or what he's going to be. And that's kind of just, I feel like where we are headed now in contracts. And it feels like that case is being made because then you see a guy like Jordan Love getting paid for what he is going to be. And then you see a guy like Dak not getting the money right now or not getting paid as fast as Jordan Love because he's got much more of a larger resume, if that makes sense. It feels like the NFL, we're entering a period where it's just pay guys based off of what you hope they're going to be through the next 4 or 5 years, not 6 years of great play. Contract comes up. Oh, now what? Now what do we do? And that seems like kind of what the Cowboys are going through a little bit with Dak. And it feels like that's the issue with the NFL or the new age of the NFL is these guys are all getting paid for what they're going to be. And like Rich Eisen put it, paying and hoping in a way, if that makes sense.
I mean, we talked about it during the regular season. I know we were having a Herbert and Prescott debate, and that's exactly the same thing we said, where you're looking at quarterbacks and you're just like, okay, well, there's so much potential down the road of, what they can accomplish, and nobody's looking at what is going on in the moment. Like you just said, what have you done in the 3, 4, 5, 6 years that you've been in the NFL? Let's pay you based off of that. Which kind of also makes me think, I know we kind of spent a lot of time talking about the Giants last week. So just to briefly get back onto them, I feel like that's what they did with Daniel Jones. Like Dak Prescott got paid. And then it was like, okay, well, this is what Daniel Jones could possibly be. He could possibly be Dak Prescott or better, and paid him Dak Prescott or better money. And now they're just sitting in a hole because they're unsure if he's even the quarterback after this year. So I understand the market price will continue to reset every time somebody gets paid. And we jokingly say it with Daniel Jones. Everyone looks at his contract and is like, hey, I just want more than that. And it's kind of seemed like that's where we're at, I don't want to say Jared Goff, but just looking at the numbers, we're going to say Jalen Hurts. Everyone's like, well, I see 51. I want more than 51. And everyone's going to continue to just top the number above them. So it's kind of ridiculous. But then again, I guess at the end of the day, you lock down your quarterback and it's either going to work out for you or it's not going to work out for you. But that contract, him and Trevor Lawrence, like robbery in broad daylight. It's ridiculous.
No, yeah, especially Trevor. And that's the thing. I'll say this. To me, and maybe this is crazy, and maybe this is why I don't find the Love contract as outrageous. I just think Trevor Lawrence is crazy overpaid and Tua's crazy overpaid, in my opinion. So much more. I think Love personally is better than both of them. Would you agree with that? I think he's better than both of them.
I think he's better. I think he's better than Lawrence. I don't know about. It's hard to say about Tua because I'm like, again, benefit of the doubt with Love. Like, unless you really watch ball, unless you're really a Packers fan, you probably can't name the receivers. But with Tua, I mean, you got arguably the best duo in football. But outside of those two, is like you got nobody else to throw the ball to. So it's kind of tough. But if I had to just go off of the 1 year of playoff success I've seen from Jordan Love, and then, like you said, Miami kind of finding ways to fall apart 2 straight years, I would take Love over Tua at this moment.
Yeah. No, I agree. And you make a good point about the receivers. Tua has a lot more to work with. I mean, the only reason I know really some of Green Bay's receivers because I had a couple of them on my fantasy team. I had Romeo Doubs, 2 years ago. I had Jaden Reed last year, and I had Christian Watson at points last season, which didn't end up working because I missed the playoffs. So don't recommend drafting or bringing in Packers receivers because it didn't obviously help me. But yeah, and I think too, this Packers organization, they've been very lucky. I mean, Packers fans are so lucky. They've gone from Brett Favre to Aaron Rodgers to now Jordan Love. So I feel like that too, they kind of get the benefit of the doubt of on paper or from the outside, this seems like an outrageous contract, but they've also, I mean, the things I would do to get the Green Bay Packers quarterback play over the last 20 plus years, they've had 3 quarterbacks start for them. The Jets had 3 quarterbacks start for them last year. That is just ridiculous. It's just crazy to think about that. You know?
Yeah,
so
that's
a good
point.
Feels like
that's a good point.
Feels like they get the benefit of the doubt. You know, he won a playoff game, so it's just where we are entering. It feels like in the NFL where they're paying for what you're going to be, not so much what you've been. 64% completion percentage last year. We rattled off some of the numbers earlier. Had the 32 touchdowns, 4,159 yards. Finished second in touchdowns, 7th in yards, 25 years old. So this contract will take him up until he's 30, I believe, or somewhere around that. And we'll see. But any other thoughts on the Jordan Love extension?
Again, hopefully he backs it up. That's it.
Yeah. No, yeah, 100%. I mean, I wouldn't be upset if he doesn't because it's not my team. But you never want it. If the Packers get themselves in a $220 pickle, I guess it wouldn't be the worst case scenario. But anyway, that is the Jordan Love situation. Now on to Tua contract extension. It is a 4-year, $212.4 million contract, $53.1 million per year, $167.1 million guaranteed. It is the largest in franchise history. And I'll be honest, I know we kind of just touched upon Tua, but to go deeper into this, I think if you're an AFC's fan, you've got to celebrate. I mean, I really do. I was happy when I saw this contract extension go down because this guy is proven time and time again. The Dolphins have proven time and time again that he is just simply not the answer. He's just not. Like, he's not the guy that is going to get this team over the top. 2 years in a row, they have blown division leads. Last year was maybe the worst of them all, where the Bills are basically just trying to tread water the entire year, trying to just stay afloat. They were 6-6 at one point. They rattle off 5 straight. They go into Miami's building and beat them in the last game of the season to knock the Dolphins out of first place, have the Dolphins go into Kansas City in negative-degree weather, get crushed by the Chiefs, get knocked out in the wild card round. And I understand, Tua got hurt in 2022. I get that. And the injuries are a concern. And this guy legitimately is one concussion away from potentially being done. And that's not what that is. Obviously, you hope that never happens, but it's a little bit more risky investment here with Tua, and an investment just on the field that, because you talk, right, a lot of people talk about playoff struggles. To me, Tua, it starts in the regular season. And this is a guy last year that had a very good regular season up until the last couple games of the season. He threw 4 interceptions in the last 2 games of the year. They got absolutely demolished by the Ravens 56-19. And then they played Buffalo and lost that game as well. He threw 2 picks. In the big moments late in the year, forget playoffs, Tua can't even get it done. This time and time, he's shown it so many times he cannot outplay Josh Allen. He has shown it so many times he can't outplay some of these other high-end quarterbacks. Lost to Mahomes this year in the Chiefs twice. Like, this guy has shown you so many times in the regular season he's not the guy, and yet they extend him. I think this is a worse contract personally than Love, but what are your thoughts on this?
This is gonna sound crazy, but I necessarily don't hate it. I mean, he's not the highest paid, so but the thing is, and it's kind of similar to what I argue with people about Dak Prescott. In Tua's case right now, in the Dolphins' case right now, just say you kind of want to wipe your hands clean of Tua. Who can you go out and get, or who can you go look forward to and invest in next year's draft that will come in and find you the success that Tua has found for you? Yes, he has struggled at the end of the year and they've fallen apart, but you know how I always say with Dak doesn't play safety, Dak doesn't play corner, he doesn't play linebacker, he doesn't call the defense, and that's the same for Tua. So looking at that Ravens game, I mean, Tua didn't give up 56 points in that Ravens game. That game was bad, just all around. Buffalo game, I can say that game was on him because the defense played so well. I think they even forced 2 Josh Allen turnovers and still found a way to lose that game. So you can't really put it all on the quarterback, especially when it has to be well-rounded from the coaching to the team and moving forward for you to continue whatever hot streak you're on. So I can't put those blunders completely on him, but at the same time, I mean, again, you're not gonna really find too much that's better than him. You're not gonna find somebody that can step in and have the chemistry with Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle like Tua does. So I guess it's one of those things. Again, with Jordan Love, you got to pay him, and you just got to hope it pans out, or hopefully you can pay him and restructure maybe a year or 2 down the road. But for right now, I don't hate it. I actually I like it.
Yeah, and I agree with your point there with the Ravens, 56 points. Obviously, the Bills game, like you said, was on him. The 2 interceptions. Bills only scored 21 points. It was, they lost by 7. It wasn't like it was 31-10, and they got blown out even if the offense was going to be productive. But I guess to me, it just comes with the struggles against really it's the struggles against the team that has, like, Tua has proven to me over his first couple years in the NFL that he just can't get over the hump and win the division. I mean, how many times does he have to go up against Josh Allen and lose? I mean, he's 1-6, I think, against the Bills all time in his career, or something along those lines. 1-6, 1-5. I think he only has 1 win against Allen in Buffalo. And I just think, like, I mean, we'll see what Buffalo is this year, but based off of what Tua has been, and like you said, we are kind of entering that period of quarterbacks paying on what they will be. I just don't think Tua is going to be much better than he already is now. I guess that's the point I'm trying to make. I think he's already proven a lot of times in his career so far. Big games against Buffalo, you even go back to earlier in his career. Last year, has he messed up and struggled in some of these games and hasn't come up big late in the season? And I know playoffs aren't everything, but even in that Chiefs game, he was, I mean, not great. You can't crush him for that though. I mean, the weather was what, -10 or whatever.
Like, yeah, it was bad weather.
He also struggles in cold weather games. He's very bad in cold weather games. If you throw Tua out there on the road this year against, I don't know, the Chiefs again, or I mean, this would be awesome, but if the Jets actually hosted a playoff game, cold environment, he struggles in that as well. Just late in the season, to me, Tua just doesn't get it done. And it starts in the regular season. And the defense is to blame a little bit, but you also just look at what he's done in the division. He can't get over the hump. I think we already know what Tua is. I don't think he's going to get much better. Like Love, I could see getting better. Love, I could see just continuing on this trajectory. Tua, like, I don't, maybe, I mean, right?
Yeah,
I don't see Tua going out there next year throwing 40 touchdowns, going 13-4, winning the division. I feel like he's kind of already hit his ceiling, and that is he's going to start very good in the regular season. They are going to crush some of these teams that aren't very good. You know, they blew out Denver. They blew out Carolina. They blew out the Giants. But when it comes to late in the season, big games against AFC opponents, big games against teams in your division that you need to compete to make the playoffs, win the division, he comes up small, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think I agree. And I see where you're coming from with Love and Tua, where you could see Love going out and have, a 40 touchdown year, but Tua, like he's hit that cap. Like it's either on the line either going to stay at the same, or he's going to kind of get worse, not drastically, but I think I agree on that point. But also, I think this is the year that he gets to really prove himself. I mean, obviously, you guys are going to be pretty good if Aaron Rodgers just continues to keep himself bubble wrapped until the season starts. Buffalo will be respectable. I know they've lost a lot, but as long as you got Josh Allen, like, you're going to be competitive. So this is kind of the year where Tua gets to prove, like, hey, I'm really worth this 53 mil that I just signed for. So, I mean, for Tua, for the Dolphins, I think you said it, is like, you have to go out and win that division. And if you can't go out and win that division, not only this year, but let's just say next year, going into year 3, you're kind of scratching your head like, it was even worth the contract. So this is the year for him. I think it really has to be a MVP like season. I'm gonna say that.
I 100% agree with that point. This contract, yeah, it puts a ton of pressure on Tua this year. If they go out and go 11-6, and they play the Jets, right? They play the Jets in the last week of the season. So let's say hypothetically they go out, they're 10-6 going in, or 11-5 going into the last week of the season. The Jets are also 11-5. The game's to win the division, and Tua goes out there and throws 2 interceptions, completes 56% of his passes and 180 yards, and they lose 17-3. Let's just say. I mean, that would be, then as a Dolphins fan, you're just like, there's nothing left. We're tied to this guy. We're stuck to him. Like, this is it. He cannot get over the hump. He's never going to get over the top. And that's the risk they're taking. But, maybe there is a world where they go out there. I mean, they were 8-3 last year, and the Bills were 6-6 at one point, and they found a way to blow the division. I mean, that was as bad as it gets. But I totally agree with you. This year, there is so much pressure, especially because it would be a terrible look for Tua, right? He's been in this division since 2020. He's had many chances to win the division. If, let's say, Aaron Rodgers, first year technically in the division, actually healthy, if he goes out there and the Jets win a division before Tua and the Dolphins do, that's a bad look for Miami. I mean, you've been on the cusp all these years in a row, and the Jets come in here in 1 year, they just take the division from you. Like, that would be a terrible look. So I totally agree with you on that, where this contract puts a ton of pressure on him. He's got to go out there and perform. I guess it all depends. I mean, let's say the Bills or the Jets go out there and have a huge year, win 13 games, and they run away with it. It wouldn't be awful. But do you feel like it's division or bust then for Miami?
Not necessarily. I mean, as long as, I guess it is about winning division. Obviously, you want home field advantage in the playoffs. But with the 7 games, I'm seven playoff teams, you kind of get to a point in the season where you're just like, let's just get into the dance and everything else, kind of we just control things as it goes. But right now, 0-0, everyone is literally 0-0. Yes, it is division or bust for Miami. And I guess I know I just said no, so it might contradict itself, but in a way, I could see why it would be that, because you were just in a division, like you were in sole possession of first place in that division 2 years in a row, and like you said, completely just found a way to fumble it away. So, at what point are you going to keep knocking on the door and not actually get in and finally win the division? So, I'm thinking for them as of now, it is division or bust. But if you're getting there, and like you said, the Jets or Buffalo's running away with it, and they're sitting at 7-1, whatever the case is, by the time the bye week, then you're kind of just like, let's just get in.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think it depends on how you don't win the division. If the Bills or the Jets go and win 13 games, and the Dolphins go 11-6, then that's, I think, Dolphins fans, you could swallow that. That'll be okay, because they just run away with division. You give credit to that team. But if it's, you're 7 or in this case, the Dolphins are 7-1, they collapse, they finish 10-7, and then the Jets or the Bills come through and win 11 games and win the division, and you collapse again, then it's like, yeah, that's terrible. So I think it depends on how you lose the division. If you go 11-6, they run away with it, you make a wild card, I don't think you're disappointed. Because hey, once you get in the dance, anything's possible. But those are your 2 big contracts. Definitely some interesting ones for sure, and kind of an interesting time for contracts in the NFL. It'll be interesting to see what the next big one is. Did you want to discuss a little bit of Cowboys, CeeDee Lamb, Dak?
I mean, I guess there's not much besides the front office just has sat here and dragged their feet throughout the regular season, knowing both of these guys needed extensions, knowing both of them are free agents after, 2025, March of 2025, they'll be free agents. So reports out of camp are that there has been contract offers that has been sent out to both of them. So I guess now it's only a matter of time of when they sign them, if they do sign them. So that does give me some confidence, because it's not like, there's no talks whatsoever and they kind of can't see eye to eye. Dallas kind of knows, like, we need to lock our stars up. They sent us something. Hopefully those guys sign within this week, within the next 2 weeks. Lock those 2 up for sure. Deal with Micah Parsons throughout the course of the season. But I don't really trust that front office with decisions, but it's out of my control. If it was me, they'd have already been signed, but that's just me though.
Yeah. Was it Jerry Jones scribbling on the notebook? Is that the contract agreement? Maybe.
Might have been. That's probably why it hasn't been signed yet, because they're trying to decipher it.
Yeah. Oh man. Yeah, it's interesting. It'll be very interesting to see what happens with Dak's contract now, with all these quarterbacks getting signed. Dak's comment about I've seen plenty of other quarterbacks great quarterbacks go play for other teams. So it feels like he's not that focused on the money right now. I don't know if you get that sense as well. It feels like he's more focused on playing out this season. The contract will come when it does. Like, if I'm a Cowboy, I'm a Cowboy. If not,
And I like that. I mean,
yeah,
I think we
100%.
talked about it last time, where last time Dallas was basically like, hey, go out there and go bet on yourself. Like, Dak ended up breaking his ankle that year, and they were forced to pay him because they were just so bad without him. So somebody that is coming off an all-pro season should have won the MVP. If you want Dak to go out there and bet on himself again, he's just going to have a better year. Or even if he doesn't have a better year, even if he has a year similar, or he plays a little less, where maybe he only throws for like 32 touchdowns and something like that. Like, it's still going to show, like, I've been consistent in my value since I got paid the first time. Like, I continue to get better, or even if I'm at a line, like, I'm showing there's not much better out there like that you're going to find. So I think that's kind of Dak's thing too. Like, obviously he wants to be a Cowboy, but Dak kind of knows, like, somebody's going to pay me, and you can just deal with whoever. Good luck with Shador Sanders flexing his Rolex after a 4th and 15 completion down 30. So it's either pay me or go deal with something in the draft. But I'm not
Carson
too
Beck.
concerned. I think they're going to don't even get me started. I mean, the trajectory of Georgia players, he might get arrested before
That's
he
true.
even gets a chance to step the field. So they're going to pay both of them. I'm not too concerned for
Yeah, I
once.
think they'll get something done. I think the guy with the biggest question in terms of his future is McCarthy. I still think.
100%.
I think Dak and CD will get their deals done eventually. Parsons obviously more down the road, but it's Mike McCarthy that is his career, his
100%.
future is kind of hanging in the limbo in terms of success this season. All right, so that's your contract stuff there. Now we'll move on to some of the training camp news and notes from around the league. Some quarterback stories here. Sam Darnold in Minnesota, looking pretty good at a couple good days. Seems like he is starting to really just working well with the first team. Obviously, he was, last after OTAs and after minicamp, he was going to get the first team reps with the Vikings, and he's gotten a lot of the first team reps. There's been a couple days where JJ McCarthy has looked good, and there's also been some days where Darnold has looked good. So early signs here. Do you think Darnold starts week 1 against the Giants, which is going to be a real shootout in that one?
You got to. I
Yeah.
mean, with all the talent that they have offensively, you don't need Sam Darnold to step in and be a game changer, an absolute superhero out there on the field. You just need him to be good enough to get the offense. Well, it's tough to say that because their defense isn't necessarily the best, so you can't really score 21 and to have the defense hold it down. But you just want to keep the team competitive going into the fourth quarter. That's all they need from him, and he has the weapons to do it. So I think you got to ride out with Darnold for 6-7 weeks and kind of see where they're sitting at in the standings at that point before you decide to make the switch from JJ or not. But they definitely kind of got to see what JJ brings in the preseason first before they fully make that decision of commitment. But I think it's a no-brainer. It's going to be Darnold for week 1.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's smart to put him out there early in the season because you look at this schedule that the Vikings have to face early in the season, it's not easy. So they get the Giants week 1, which will be winnable. But then after that, before their week 6 bye, they've got San Fran, Houston, Green Bay, the Jets, bye, Detroit, Rams, Indy. I mean, that's tough. That is really, really tough. You really you don't want to see JJ McCarthy have to kind of go through that gauntlet. You'd rather give that to Darnold early on, weather the storm. And then there's really, they don't have a very easy schedule because then after Indy, they've got Jacksonville, Tennessee, Chicago, a little lighter there. I think they could beat Jacksonville or Tennessee. Chicago will be tough. Arizona's beatable. Atlanta will be tough. Chicago again, Seattle, Green Bay, Detroit. See, what's so tough is they're in a very difficult division. All 6 of their division games are going to go up against teams that are probably going to be vying for a playoff spot. Plus the non-divisional matchups, San Fran, Houston. I mean, you got to face the Rams, Indy, and a lot of these coming on the road too. Rams are on the road. You of course get Green Bay, Chicago, and Detroit home and away, of course. But I think that's one of the big reasons too why you got to give Darnold early on is throwing JJ McCarthy out there week 2 to the San Francisco 49ers is doing such a disservice to your rookie quarterback. So I think you've got to throw him out there. And look, I've always said this. I'm not saying that Darnold. I also think Darnold early on gives him a better chance to win. Usually the veteran does. I'm not saying Darnold's going to go out to this year or throw for 35 touchdowns and win an MVP. But throughout everywhere Darnold has gone, he has not had any weapons. From a starting perspective, the teams that he has started on, he's had no weapons. The 3 years with the Jets, we all know, it was a disaster, 0 weapons. 2021 with the Panthers, his main weapon, his number 1 guy, outside of Christian McCaffrey, of course, who kind of your do-it-all guy. But in terms of receiving, His main weapon, Robbie Anderson, who now is chosen Anderson.
And
And
I
then
don't
the
even think
next
he's on
year
the
in Carol,
team.
no, he's not. I don't even think he's anywhere. Yeah. And then the next year in Carolina, didn't end up working out. Goes to San Fran as the backup. As a starter, he's had no weapons. This would be the first time Darnold legitimately has a number one receiver and an actual tight end too. We can't forget about TJ Hawkinson either. But Darnold having a number one weapon, I'm not saying he's going to go out there and sling it and dominate, but you could potentially see the best Sam Darnold we've ever seen with Aaron Jones at running back, Justin Jefferson, Addison at receiver, and then TJ Hawkinson. I mean, you've got a lot of weapons there, and I think, I guess, what are your thoughts on what he could potentially bring to the table from that standpoint of he's never had this. He's never had a legitimate number one receiver. I mean, the closest thing he's had to Justin Jefferson is, I don't even know. Nobody.
There's no comparison though.
No
Yeah, there's
comparison.
no comparison. I mean, like I just said, I don't think he needs to go out and do nothing too crazy. Just
Mm-hmm.
trust your playmakers. Don't turn the ball over. That's all you really need from him. But realistically, I think if he can go out and let's just say he does play all 17 games, I think if he can go out and give you like 27 touchdowns, 11 interceptions, I think that's a good year for him. Like, kind of regardless of the direction of the teams. I mean, they haven't been good defensively. That's always been their issue, especially in the playoffs. I mean, when Daniel Jones comes in your building and beat you in a playoff game, you kind of got to evaluate your D coordinator.
Yeah.
So defensively, they've always kind of been a hassle to deal with. So I think if he just goes in and he just shows there's promise and like he's learned from his time in New York and Carolina, he can either find himself starting again for the Vikings come next year, or he might earn himself a starting spot elsewhere. But I just think for him, you just go in, just trust your weapons. That's literally all you got to do. I mean, don't be a hero, like I said.
Yeah, I 100% agree. If he can kind of just manage the game and get the ball to his weapons, utilize his tight end, of course, take some deep shot, take some risks to Justin Jefferson, of course. Don't keep everything in kind of a 10, 15-yard window.
Yeah.
But if he can do that, I think you would look at that as in a really, really good spot.
Mhm.
And again, this is a chance for Darnold to not only bridge the gap from Minnesota, but revive his own career. If he goes out there this year and plays well, it's crazy to think that he's already entering his 7th NFL season. But if he goes out there and plays well this season, gets a deal maybe elsewhere to be a starter again, maybe he could start to look down the road of, man, maybe I can actually start on a team or go elsewhere and actually get a starting gig and be that starter for a little while. So it's look at that. A lot would have to happen for Darnold to sign on with a team to be the long-term starter. He would have to really impress this year, but I think this is an opportunity with weapons around him to really impress for the first time. You know what's crazy? I'm just looking at some of Darnold's game logs. I remember back in 2018, his rookie year, that Packers game he had against Rodgers, where he basically went toe-to-toe with Rodgers. The Jets ended up losing in overtime. But I remember walking out of that game like, yeah, the Jets got their guy. We got our guy. He just went toe-to-toe with Aaron Rodgers. And then, the rest of his career has happened. But
Downhill from here. But
those 2018 Darnold runs. I mean, he had that crazy game against Rodgers. Then he had the one really great game against the Texans. Beat the Bills. Just some of these games were crazy he had. I mean, 2018, the Bills weren't. Well, I think the Bills weren't any good. But so
I
that
think that
doesn't
was
matter. But he
Allen's
beat Allen. Yeah,
year. Yeah,
Allen's
so I
rookie
think that
year.
was
Yeah.
Allen. Yeah.
So beat Josh Allen head to head. Felt like, yeah, we got our guy. Forget about Josh Allen. He stinks. Darnold's better. And then you almost beat you compete, balls out 253 yards against Houston. His stat line against Green Bay, 24 of 35, 68.6% completion percentage, 341 yards and 3 touchdowns. Absolutely crazy. Crazy.
Well,
And the
now that I do have a question, does Sam Darnold have more career wins against Josh Allen than Tua?
he might. He might. Hold on. Hold on a second. We have to check this.
Woo!
Tua versus Bills. Wow.
Oh man.
All time. Yeah. Tua is 1-6 record against the Bills in his career. Sam Darnold versus Bills. 2-3 against the Bills in his career. So Darnold has more wins against Allen and the Bills than Tua does. And Tua is getting paid $220 million or whatever it is. $260 million.
It's interesting.
That is
Very
not a good
interesting.
look for Miami.
Very interesting.
That is a bad look. It's a great point. Glad you brought that up. Guess who was the Jets' leading receiver that day?
Against
Robbie Chosen, Green Bay.
oh, of
Robbie
course.
Chosen,
Just
140 yards, 9 catches, a touchdown.
just a full circle moment.
Really is. Chris
That is
Herndon had a
crazy.
touchdown. Elijah McGuire had a touchdown. Jets legend. Man, those Jets teams were so bad. But Darnold, man, that was crazy game. I remember that. And Rodgers had 442 yards and 2 touchdowns. Jeez, just
All
crazy.
right.
Anyway, enough of the Darnold talk. We now move on to the Denver Broncos 3-way quarterback competition. Bo Nix, Jarrett Stidham, Zach Wilson, all getting first-team reps. Really kind of interesting to see how this continues to develop. It still seems like the leader here is Bo Nix. It still seems like Bo Nix is leading the way. Had a really good practice yesterday, 3 touchdowns, did throw a pick, but had a good day. Got to love the training camp practice stats. Those are always fun to break down. Just slinging it all over the field in T-shirts and shorts. But good day for Bo Nix. Zach getting run with the first team. Supposedly he has looked okay with the first team. And then, of course, Bo Nix has looked good as well. Haven't heard a ton on Stidham, but where do you think this quarterback competition ends up going as it continues to heat up? You think Bo Nix ends up as the starter? Do they pull kind of a surprise and go with the veteran and Stidham, who, can play a little bit earlier in the year, and then after Stidham or Nix sits and watches, goes out there and starts playing? What do you see here?
I mean, I think it's gonna be. I think it should be Bo Nix. They're in a situation kind of where you have nothing to lose and you actually have nothing to win either. So it doesn't hurt to kind of throw your rookie out there and get him a year of experience. Because starting Stidham, I mean, what do you really gain from it? That's not who you're investing in to be your quarterback in the long term. So
Yeah,
go ahead and let Nix kind of start it out, kind of just get a feel within the first few games, like we were just saying with the Vikings until the bye week maybe. Let them get a feel, see kind of how they're doing, and make a decision to switch it up from there. But I mean, the only thing the Broncos are absolutely fighting for right now is to not get a top 5 spot, and I just don't think that's happening. So nothing, nothing to lose. Just go
no,
with Knicks, and I actually want to see. Actually, I don't. That means I got to put the Broncos on my TV.
yeah,
But I'm gonna say I just want to see Knicks progression kind of over times. I mean, just seeing him start at Auburn and then how he ended his career at Oregon was just a completely different player. So I want to see how the NFL treats him. That's all.
yeah. Bo Nix is one of the more intriguing prospects because he spent 5 years in the college. He's 24 years old. He's not your average 20, 21-year-old, spring chicken out there just kind of trying to learn and adjust to the NFL game. But he has a lot of experience, and supposedly he's very smart. And supposedly he, so far during camp, has looked good with the first team, has kind of caught up to the speed of the NFL game. Of course, it'll be interesting to see what he looks like too in the preseason. But yeah, I think it's Knicks, and I agree with all your points. They have nothing to lose this season, and yeah, they probably don't have anything to win either. they are not going to be very good. They're probably a 4 or 5 win team, maybe at most. And this is kind of a development year, a transition year, getting out of the Russell Wilson era. Not that they went all in with Russell Wilson, but still kind of getting out of that era where they put Russell Wilson in thinking that he was their final piece, thinking that he can get them over the top, and it didn't work. You got rid of Jerry Jeudy. You're probably going to, Cortland Sutton will probably be gone after this year. You added Josh Reynolds on I think a 1-year deal, I think it was. So you're kind of in this transition year of moving on from some guys in that last 4 or 5 years have played a role and shifting more younger talent surround around Bo Nix and things like that. To me, it just wouldn't make sense to start Jarrett Stidham at all, just because of the fact that it just why start like Jarrett. It just doesn't make sense from Jarrett Stidham. Jarrett Stidham too. It's a little different with the Vikings because I would trust Donald over Jarrett Stidham, and I think JJ McCarthy is a lot more raw than Bo Nix. Like McCarthy, I think has a lot to learn. He's more of a very high risk, high reward type prospect, could easily bust like Zach Wilson, but could easily turn out to be this really good player with a lot of talent, but you've got to see if you can actually mold him into an NFL quarterback. Bo Nix, I feel like, is a kind of a low ceiling guy. I don't really know if his ceiling's that high, but it feels like he's got a high floor. I think he'll be solid. He's smart. He's got a lot of experience. He's 24 years old. There's guys that are played in a year or two already in the NFL that are younger than him, which is kind of crazy to think. So, yeah, I agree with Bo Nix. But I have to read you. There was this article the other day that wrote about the Broncos quarterback competition. And it said, what philosophy will Coach Payton adopt? Play the steady veteran who likely gives the Broncos the best chance to win early in the season. Go with the first round pick, live with the mistakes and be willing to sacrifice drives, if not games, for his development, or push all the chips in on a reclamation project with the most arm talent. They made all three of those quarterbacks sound like fantastic. Like they go,
who's the one with the most arm talent? Is that supposed to be Zach Wilson?
Zach Wilson. Reclamation project, put all the chips in the middle. And I am 100% on board with that. Zach Wilson, baby. Starting week 1. Very interesting article. They go with the steady veteran. I wouldn't consider Jarrett Stidham steady. They say, Bo Nix, they made sense. Rookie, live with the mistakes. I get that. Zach Wilson, put all your chips in the middle. Arm talent's got arm talent, but I don't know if you'd be putting all your chips in the middle. I mean, you'd be basically waving the white flag if you throw Zach Wilson out there at any point this season. That's telling the NFL you're not a serious team.
Do not throw Zach Wilson out there. I mean, from watching the Jets Hard Knocks last year, and obviously this is before Rodgers went down, but I was convinced Zach Wilson was ready to get his jersey in like the Ring of Honor for the Jets, and that nobody would ever wear that number 2 uniform ever again. So, what they see in training camp out of Zach Wilson, all this arm talent and all this and that, I'm not buying it. Like, I'm not buying it. The nice arm talent is what got him in this situation anyways, off of a nice pro day throw. Now he's the number 2 pick. So, no, we're not doing this again. I mean, go with the rookie. Go with the rookie. Literally, I know you just said nothing to lose, nothing to win, and you kind of don't want to fight for a top, you don't want to be a top 5 pick because that just shows how bad you are. But maybe you do want to be a top 5 pick, and you can invest in Travis Hunter, Quinshawn Judkins, somebody down the line that you can bring in and just continue to help develop. So I think the best bet for them is to go ahead and sacrifice drives, sacrifice games, and just, it is what it is. DUI rates might be pretty high in Denver with whoever you put at quarterback, but I mean, it doesn't hurt. Just roll out with Nix for the start of the year.
Yeah, that's why I think you just got to play Nix the entire season, get a top 5 pick, and then I guess if you see enough out of him, build around him. I mean, if Nix, let's say, plays all 17 games and is terrible, like let's say he throws 8 touchdowns and like 15 picks. I think Zach in his first year threw 9 and 13, I think, or maybe it might have been Might have been 9 picks, or 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. Yes, it was 9 touchdowns, 11 picks. Let's say Bo Nix goes out there and throws 8 touchdowns, 13 picks, completes 58% of his passes. They get a top 3 pick. You think they draft a quarterback? Probably, right? Or do you think they roll with then maybe it's interesting.
At that point, it makes no sense. I mean, you already
Back-to-back
got Knicks on
years.
the roster.
Yeah.
You got
But
Stidham on the roster. You
mhm.
might still have Wilson. What's the point? Like, go get a playmaker. They absolutely have no one. Like you said, Sutton might be gone next year. KJ
Yeah.
Hamler is already gone. Judy is gone. Like, go out and get a weapon, an offensive weapon.
Yeah. No, I would agree. The storylines, though, would be wild if it was Shedeur Sanders staying in Colorado.
Goodness.
The 2 craziest places for Shedeur Sanders to land would be the Cowboys and the Broncos.
No,
I
that
think.
was. I was gonna say Denver and Atlanta, but I could see.
Yeah,
I could
Atlanta.
see why in Dallas.
Atlanta would be wild.
I'm
Michael
highly
Penix,
doubt it
Kirk
with
Cousins, Shedeur Sanders.
Penix now being there, but I mean, I'm not even gonna rant about a Shedeur Sanders in Dallas possibility.
It would just
I can't.
be no. Yeah, I agree. I don't think it would happen, but the media tension around it would be wild. And then Colorado wise, it would just be interesting to see him play college ball there and then stay there and play for the Broncos. I don't know who's going to Shedeur Sanders, wherever he goes, it's going to be a very, very interesting situation to say the least.
And it's tough because like he's so gifted and he's so athletic, and
Yeah.
like I actually like to watch him play, but
Yeah, I agree.
he's
Same.
just so arrogant, and that's the part like I can't get jiggy with whatsoever is his arrogance. I mean, we thought Johnny Manziel and Baker Mayfield was bad. I know we just talked about Baker's college antics too. Like we thought those two were bad of how they acted in college. Shedeur is 1,000 times worse. Like
I also
insufferable.
mhm. I also think too with Shedeur, it's that, and it's also just with his dad and the whole college football now. Like,
Yeah.
even if he was the most humble guy, he's still got his last name carries so much. He's got so much weight when it comes to that point. He's got so much media hype and
Which
media
is
attention when it comes to that.
Which is fine because, like, if you
Yeah.
were humble and you're still playing how you're playing, like we watched. I don't know if you watched any Colorado last year, but I watched quite a few Colorado games last year, and we know their offensive line was terrible. We know
Yeah.
defensively they couldn't stop a nosebleed. So, it's kind of not on Shedeur what's going on, but if he was humble in what he's doing and he was still performing how he was performing, I mean, teams would be like salivating to get him in there with their top 3, top 5, whatever it is, picks. But I mean, when you're flexing Rolexes at the student sections and losing by 40, it's just like, dude, what are you doing?
Yeah. No, I agree. And then it's you did the Rolex at the Arizona State student section, which
Yeah.
was after they barely beat them. Arizona State was terrible. And then they blew that game against Stanford.
Stanford, oh my goodness. I remember going to sleep, like turning the TV off, like I'm like, all right, yeah, this game is over. Wake up the next morning and college football for you.
They found a way to, yeah, and
But
then they lost. They missed the bowl game. They lost every game after that, which was about as bad as it gets.
yeah, like 2-0
So,
to 4-8, if I'm correct. Because you beat TCU in week 1, and I can't remember
yes,
who they rolled out
3-0.
week 2.
They beat
3-0.
TCU, beat Nebraska, beat Colorado State, and then they lost to Oregon. Oregon was the start of their downfall, and then they were close against USC. They lost 48-41
Yeah.
to UFC, USC. But that's because USC's defense was terrible. They actually fired their defensive coordinator. They lost that game 3-2, beat Arizona State, and then after he showed off that Rolex, everything went downhill. They lost 6 straight to end the year. Finished 4-8.
Like I remember watching the Oregon game and seeing like the Dan Lanning thing post game. And at first, when I first seen it, I'm just like, it's like this guy's a hater of Colorado. Like, what is the case? And then seeing the on-field interactions with Colorado, and I was like, I understand why Oregon tried to put up 100 points on them. Like I
Yeah.
all for it. And I mean, honestly, so this year I am going to UCF in Colorado. Can't remember exactly when they play. I hope UCF puts up 80 points. I really hope they put up 80 points. I hate the arrogance, the ignorance from Colorado, like as a whole. Outside of Travis Hunter, I love Travis Hunter.
Travis Hunter's a
The
beast.
other ones, I hope UCF puts up 80 points. I really do. That would be the best drive home from UCF back to my place if they put up 80 on Colorado.
Yeah, Travis Hunter's another name to watch out for as a prospect. He's like the Shohei of football right now.
Yeah, he can do everything, literally everything.
Yeah.
Like there's no weak spot.
Yep.
Just home runs or nothing, right? That's basically Travis Hunter.
Yeah.
So he's gonna have a bunch of amazing plays, or just some games you're like, yeah.
100%. All right. Hall of Fame game this week. Football. Thursday. Bears Texans at Tom Benson Hall of Fame Stadium. This is big here. Bears are 2-point favorites. Okay, so for the people that are going to bet on the Hall of Fame game, Bears 2-point favorites. Over under is 32.5. Man, just saying that we're back. We're so back.
We're so back.
Just saying
we
that
are so back.
So that is the stuff there. Bears Texans. If this was a week 1 matchup, this would be awesome. But Hall of Fame game, you won't see CJ Stroud. You might see Caleb Williams, possibly Roma Dunze, Cade Stover, maybe. Any of those guys you're looking at, what you're watching for in this one.
If Williams plays, I want to see him and Adunze connection just to see how the chemistry that they built up. I know you got Keenan Allen over there, you got DJ Moore out over there, but to have a very solid 1-2-3 punch at wide receiver, that is huge in the NFL. So kind of just see where they're at together and just kind of how their adjustment to the league. I mean, both of them absolutely just shredded college, but different game speed and those type of things. So it's going to be fun to see them kind of connecting what they've built so far. And for Houston, I know we talked off air. It's not really too much for Houston. Maybe Laster, the corner they drafted out of Georgia. But other than that, like we said, it's more about just that we have football on Thursday and less about who we're actually willing to see. But, football is so back. We are back.
Yeah, I totally agree. It feels the same way. It's more so just about having football on the screen. Caleb Williams plays. I think the biggest thing you like to see out of a rookie in his first start is how comfortable he looks. Is he up to the speed of the NFL game, getting the ball out quick, accuracy, all that stuff. You're not looking for him. You can't be, if you watch a rookie quarterback in his first game, you can't go out there and just judge everything based off the box score. If he goes out there and his first plays one drive, goes 2 or 3 for 20 yards or 16 yards, but looks fine, looks comfortable, maybe picks up a first down or 2, I think that's a positive for a Bears fan. A lot of people like to judge rookie quarterbacks off their box scores in the preseason, which is just stupid when CJ Stroud last year's box scores were probably the ugliest thing ever and went out there and dominated. So, all of the rookies, it's new, it's fresh. I wouldn't expect Caleb Williams to go out there and throw for 3 touchdowns. He's not going to be on the field for that long. But that connection to Roma Dunze, early on, see if he targets him, obviously is big. And then Houston, we might see Tim Boyle, by the way, 4th string quarterback right now for Houston. So we might see Tim Boyle sling it, which is just completely crazy that Tim Boyle is slinging it. He's going to sling it out there in a Hall of Fame game as the 4th string quarterback. And last year he was starting games for the New York Jets. That is just wild. That is crazy. Unbelievable. He was starting games in the NFL last year. And now this guy's been relegated to 4 quarters of Hall of Fame game.
What if Tim Boyle goes out, has like a 3 or 4 touchdown performance, and you're going to have that one guy, like, who is this Tim Boyle guy? Where did he go to college? Like, who is this rookie? And he's like an 8-year vet who just started with the Jets last year for some time.
That really does like put into perspective. He was starting games for the Jets last year.
Yep.
Let Tim Boyle.
Did he start the Black Friday game? Like I don't remember
Yeah.
who started.
That was his first start because Zach got benched in the Buffalo game and he
Oh,
went out there and started the Black Friday game. Ugh.
the Javon Holland 99-yard.
Yeah, that
I'm
fail
sorry to
Mary.
bring up the PTSD, but the 99-yard interception return before halftime.
The fail Mary. Brutal.
That is
Absolutely brutal.
crazy. I mean, one thing I can say, I kind of wish,
Hey,
I mean, I'm curious if you've seen these in person, but I wish the classic, Jesus, I'm getting old. If the Jets classic uniforms were, unveiled last year and they played in them, Zach Wilson would have looked amazing throwing interceptions. Tim
yeah,
Boyle as
he would have.
well. But
Yeah, he would have. You know what's funny about that fail Mary? The Jets should have went into halftime only down 10-6. Tim Boyle can't even reach the end zone. Throws short of the end zone on a Hail Mary. Javon Holland runs it back. But guess what? Prior to that, Brandon Eccles had a pick 6 off of Tua.
Okay. Let's exchange interceptions before we can get to halftime.
Just stay. One of the quarterbacks that threw the interception actually is getting paid $260 plus. I mean, both threw touchdowns technically, so I guess he can't get on him too much.
Yeah,
Boyle threw
threw
4 picks, 1 touchdown, 4 picks as a Jet. 2 starts and then was benched for Simeon.
Russian roulette, the Jets quarterback room.
Brutal. This is it. This is the year it all changes. Any closing thoughts?
Oh yeah, I know you went to camp. Did you get an opportunity to see the uniforms on the man?
Yes.
How
Yes.
impressed are you?
They look very good. They're very nice.
Are
The helmets are beautiful.
ordering a Garrett Wilson classic jersey?
Possibly.
Interesting.
If it's possible. Right now I've got a Rodgers jersey from last year. So that's, that's lost its value, unfortunately. But I got that. I've got a Nick Mangle jersey, Joe Namath, and Joe Klecko. So I do have those classic jerseys. I have a Klecko classic jersey in that because those are the jerseys that Klecko and them wore back in the 80s. But I don't have a current player in those classic jerseys. So, but they're nice. The helmets are so nice. The jerseys are nice, but the helmets are beautiful. Now the white face masks are awesome. The logo, they're so clean.
Which we talked about it, like when we're talking about Jamal Adams, like that time period of Jets jerseys were just the definition of aura. Like and
then
they
those
were
new jerseys
amazing.
the new uniforms, they just the one game classics as well. The ones, with the Jamal Adams, those were Jamal Adams had aura. No coverage ability, like you said.
No coverage ability.
What was it?
But
0 coverage, 1,000 aura, or
absolutely,
Yep.
0 coverage, 1,000 aura. I mean, aura wins you football games.
Yeah.
I mean, look at the Oklahoma City Thunder. Look at Shea, like Gilgeous Alexander. Like, aura wins you things. It gets you places.
Yeah.
That's kind of all you need. So,
Unfortunately, though, I feel like aura hasn't really worked with the Jets, I guess.
No, they lost them when they decided to get the new uniforms.
Yeah. Yeah, the aura, dude, you could not have any aura with those Jets uniforms that they've worn for the last 5 seasons. Those
were bad. Those were pretty
flat
bad,
out
but
pathetic.
One thing I can say about the offseason, this has it's blessed us with so many uniforms. The Texans are fire, Lions are fire, Jets are fire, Bucks are bringing back the creamsicle uniforms.
Yep.
It's been a good offseason for uniforms. I can say that.
Good. Yes, I totally agree. So that'll do it for episode 22. We'll be back next week with another episode. More camp notes, I'm sure. I'll be back out at camp on Jets camp at Tuesday. So first padded practice. Maybe we can even look through some videos there as well. But we'll discuss all that next week. So stay tuned and talk to you then.